What's up? Welcome to Midwest Sagacity, and thank you for stopping by. I'm Midwest Savage, and today we're going to get into something a little bit controversial. I'm not even going to say a little bit, I'm lying. Extremely controversial, and I'm going to give you my brutal, honest opinion of why I think people are mad over this whole Bud Light situation. Let's get into it. All right, guys. First, what we got to do is take a look at the actual video that made everyone mad. Now, I tried to find the video when it first popped off, but looks like it was kind of scrubbed and hidden because they were trying to hide that after all this backlash. But I found it. Let's take a look at it real quick and see what it was all about.
Hi. Impressive carrying skills, right? I got some Bud Lights for us. So, I kept hearing about this thing called March Madness, and I thought we were all just having a hectic month, but it turns out...
I literally can't get 10 seconds into any video. This is the first time I'm watching this. That is a reason to piss people off to begin with, especially if they're sports fanatics. That would piss off a lot of people.
It has something to do with sports, and I'm not sure exactly which sport, but either
this person's playing dumb or wow. I mean, what planet do you live on? Regardless if you're into sports or not, everyone knows what March Madness is. It happens every single year. Wow. And if you guys don't know, this is Dylan Mulvaney, and we'll go over him in here in a bit.
way, it's a cause to celebrate. This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it. Check out my Instagram story to see how you can enjoy March Madness with Bud Light and maybe win some money too. Love ya! Cheers! Go team! Whatever team you love, I love too.
Well, that was interesting to say the least. Way to go, Bud Light. That was smart marketing, right? You picked a person that knows nothing about what they're promoting. March Madness happens every single year. It's for basketball. You don't have to be a sports fan to know that. And you pick somebody who knows nothing about it or is playing completely stupid for his fan base. Yeah, I could see why people would be a little bit mad at that, but that's not the main reason. And it isn't because the dude's dressed up like a woman, and it isn't because he's celebrating his 365th day of being a quote unquote woman, whatever that is these days, because apparently no one can agree on what a woman is except for actual women. They know what it is, but we'll get into that argument a little bit later. Let's see why people are really specifically mad at why this particular person was not a good choice to promote their Bud Light and putting his face on the can. There actually was an article attached to that, which I think we should read because there was a misconception about that particular can and that it was going to be distributed to the masses, but that was not going to be the case. I think a lot of people got mad at that and said they weren't going to buy the beer, but that was supposedly never meant to happen. I think it would have if there wouldn't have been the backlash, but that's what the company's saying. Let's take a look at the article. All right, so the title of the article was Anheuser-Busch CEO shifts blame on Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney ads. Not a formal campaign, it says. Yeah, I probably should have said that like weeks ago. It's a little late now, but let's read this ad and see what all they were saying. All right, so the top executive of Bud Light's parent company, Anheuser-Busch, on Thursday disavowed the embattled company's ties to transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney as sales of the beer crater. So you sent him a can, but you're disavowing any ties to him. A little late for that. That's too late. I don't think he made his own can. We need to clarify the facts that this was one can. So you made the can. So there's a tie there because you sent it to him, right? We need to clarify the facts that this was one can, one influencer, one post, and not a campaign. Well, it would have been a campaign more than likely because even one of your execs said that they were trying to push into this market and it was going to be a campaign if this would have been successful, guaranteed. So companies really need to talk to their PR people and tell them that lies are just not going to cut it anymore for people. It really isn't. You know, you get what you deserve if you're not going to just own up to it. Like say, hey, yeah, we made the can. We gave them one can. We weren't going to do this for everybody. But no, you want to sit here and lie and say it was only one can and it wouldn't have been a campaign, even though your person said it was. You know, you could have said sorry. We didn't know you guys felt this way about it or something like that, right? But they knew what they were doing, but they didn't care because it's all about spreading the message, right? It's about pushing this into people's faces, and they're being pressured to do this by influencers as well as top leaders with agendas. And if you want to do business in their countries, you got to push their agendas in their country. And that's what this was about. So Ducaris went on to decry the misinformation spread on social media after Mulvaney last month posted a photo with a Bud Light can while in a bathtub on TikTok to her more than 10 million followers. Now that is a problem in on itself because from what I understand, and I'll see if I can find this and put the numbers up there, but his fan base is mainly younger individuals, young kids. So for one to be promoting alcoholic beverages to young kids, not okay. Also to be sitting in a bathtub with a beer, also not okay. That gives off some very bad vibes if your main demographics are young children. And that is why people are pissed at Bud Light for choosing this individual to do something like this because one, main demographics are children. Two, you shouldn't be pushing alcoholic beverages onto children. Three, shouldn't be pushing messages to children like this. As a company, you shouldn't be standing as a adult company. They make products specifically for adults. Shouldn't be choosing someone who panders to children and influences children. And that's been the big debate about this whole movement is the children. We'll get into more of that here in a few moments. The company faced immediate blowback from many conservative regions of the country. Calls for a Bud Light boycott have threatened its leading position as the country's most popular brand. During the week that ended April 22nd, the most recent industry data available, Bud Light sales plunged 21% versus a year ago, during a time of March Madness and the finals and all this stuff going on, their sales should be going up year over year, accelerating from a 17% slide a week earlier and an initial weekly drop of 6% when the controversy kicked off during the first week of April, according to Nielsen IQ and Bump Williams Consulting. Ducuris said the company was provided directional and financial support to delivery drivers, wholesalers, and bar owners who were impacted by the backlash. So they have gone into full on crisis mode here. This isn't just like we got to fix a PR problem. Now we're losing vendors. We're compensating vendors for losing sales. We're compensating delivery drivers for losing sales. We're compensating people who are impacted by the backlash. When a company has to step up and do that, you know it's bad. The people have spoken on this one. So, eek, that's terrible. We need to clarify the facts that this was one camp, one influencer, one post, and not a campaign. I think that's what it was said earlier. Not one camp, it was one can. He echoed the flat apology offered up by Budlight CEO Brendan Whitworth on April 14th, which really wasn't an apology at all. We will continue to learn, meet the moment in time, and all be stronger, and we will work tirelessly to do what we do best. Yeah, that's what you should have did in the first place. That's the problem. Stick to making your beer. Stay out of the politics. All the companies need to do this. Gillette took it over the head for the same thing when they came out with their anti-man commercial, when you sell razors to men. Do what they do best. Bring people together over a beer and creating a future of more cheers. Ducuris told Fox Business. Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. Oh, here's another article by the New York Post. Free Bud Light offered to distributors over the Dylan Mulvaney controversy. Beer giant Anheuser-Busch is trying to salvage its relationship with Bud Light distributors who faced angry customers after the brand partnered with transgender social media influencer Dylan Mulvaney. But according to Bud Light, it wasn't a partnership. Or was it? The beer maker ignited a firestorm last month when it celebrated Mulvaney's 365 days of girlhood by sending Mulvaney custom-made cans featuring the influencer's face. Yeah. You did kind of partner up with them when you're celebrating something that I think that's highly controversial right now. Since then, Bud Light in-store sales have dropped 26% during the week that ended April 22nd. The beer giant had also seen its market value decrease by $5 billion in a month. They lost $5 billion. To combat those losses and its tarnished reputation with customers, the country's largest brewer is trying to make amends with wholesale distributors who suffered from the controversial partnership, the Wall Street Journal reported. All right, the article goes on to say the company reportedly plans to spend more money on marketing Bud Light with new ad campaigns and will send each wholesale distributor employee a free case of Bud Light. But what if they're against it? I mean, what if they don't want that? It seems, I mean, what are they going to do with a free case? The distributors themselves are going to do with a free case of Bud Light. They pretty much have all the Bud Light that they could want because they can't sell any of it. Anheuser-Busch is also trying to diffuse some of the backlash wholesalers have faced by giving them a letter to show retailers that addresses the misconceptions about the Mulvaney partnership. This is not a formal campaign or advertisement. Our new vice president of Bud Light and all of us at Anheuser-Busch are committed to reminding all of our customers why they love Bud Light and why they made it the number one beer in America. The Mulvaney cans were only sent to the influencer to promote on social media, but were never available for sale. But would they have been had there not been all of this backlash? That's the question. And my guess is probably would have been. Wholesalers told the Wall Street Journal that customers incorrectly believed they were on the shelves or that Mulvaney had appeared in a television commercial promoting the product. Well, kind of was. It was on something bigger than television. It was on YouTube. Del Papa, a beer distributor of Houston, Texas, said their staff had received tons of phone calls from people being very hateful. In a Facebook post, the company said it too was upset about the situation. He got upset because people got upset. That's the only reason why. And had addressed it with the top leadership at Anheuser-Busch. Yes, they let two people out on administrative leave, one being the woman that first defended the move and another individual as well. Let's see here. They didn't need to take the risk, the distributor told Wall Street Journal, fearing the backlash could go both ways. I lost my cowboy bars, and now I could lose my gay bars too. Interesting. Fox News Digital reached out to Anheuser-Busch for comment prior to the backlash over Mulvaney. Bud Light vice president of marketing revealed the beer brand was trying to revamp its image and appeal to younger customers. So her explanation further stoked the fire because of this part right here. Younger customers. We had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of bratty, kind of out of touch humor, and it was really important that we had another approach, said Alyssa Heinerscheid. That's an interesting last name. On her March podcast. Well, she has been put on administrative leave. Let's see. Yeah, Fox News digitally previously reported the marketing executive went on leave following the backlash over the woke marketing campaign. Yeah, so this was a pretty big deal. Another reason why people were mad was for this particular sentence right here. They were only sent to the influencers to promote on social media. So you're saying it's not an ad campaign or anything like that, but you wanted them to promote it on social media. That's advertising. I don't know. Maybe Bud Light was thinking, hey, we send him a free case of beer with his face on it or her face on it, whatever it wants to be called. And there, we got free advertising to 10 million viewers. They thought it was worth it, but it cost them so much more. So much more. All right, here's the real reason why I think that everyone is really mad at Bud Light. This was an article from when Dylan Mulvaney went to the White House. Child care experts slam Biden for exposing vulnerable teens to TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney's trans ideology as her fan base rises to 8.4 million after a White House interview. Now, it's up and over 10 million, and that's when Bud Light got involved. Transgender TikToker Dylan Mulvaney gained tens of thousands of followers after appearing at White House. She now has 4 million, which is up to 10 million now. Her post about newfound girlhood get millions of hits. President Joe Biden faces a backlash for boosting her social media profile. Article goes on to say child care experts are expressing alarm over transgender TikToker Dylan Mulvaney's popular bump after White House debut. Social media is driving a spike in teens seeking sex change procedures. This is why people are pissed. This is why. The main reason. Not only that, Budlight was targeting ages between 18 and 49. There is nowhere in the US that you can drink at the age of 18. So you are pandering to young adults that aren't even legal to drink. That was one reason. Second reason is promoting this idea to a influencer whose main audience is between the ages of 13 and 25 or something like that. I know that they were teenagers is the main his main audience, and it's all about the teenagers going through gender dysphoria. Um, they're called social media influencers because they influence people. Marciano, a clinician with the Gender Exploratory Therapy Association, a group of therapists. It's very concerning to see social media influencers get this kind of attention being asked to visit the White House. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of heroes, there's a lot of soldiers out there that have fought and done brave things that don't get to go to the White House. This person, put on a wig, put on some lipstick, did some makeup and eyeliner, and got to go to the White House. Celebrated and valorized without any critical appraisal or explanation or alternative viewpoints that could affect people. Candace Jackson, a lawyer and US based spokesperson for GenSpec, a global coalition of clinicians and parents against some so called gender affirming care, also called Mulvaney's White House debut worrying. Young people look up to celebrities and politicians, and if they only hear one side, and that's the case, isn't it? Because I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but you're only allowed to hear their side. Anything that's counter to that, they start insulting and trying to get you canceled and threaten with violence. And they think it's okay. I heard a guy debating on somebody with Destiny, which is a pretty left leaning guy. He calls himself center left. He's pretty left leaning guy, but he wanted to, bring up the point, like, are we going too far with this woke culture? And there was a guy that said, if there's a guy out there spreading hate or whatever, and they get shot or killed or something, I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. That's how these people think. And you want the rest of the nation to start supporting you on your issues. That's not the way to do it. I'll tell you that. That's not how you get people on your side. Young people look up to celebrities and politicians, and if they only hear one side with no culture counterweight, they're hearing that transitioning is somehow consequence free and risk free. That is another thing that they're saying. Hey, well, we're going to allow our insurance to pay for it and all this stuff, and it's no problem. We can make it easy for you. And you're telling this to people as young as 2 and 4 and giving them gender assigning, reassignment, surgeries. And it's already been proven that kids cannot make up their own mind. They cannot even choose the right decision, even if they know right from wrong, because their brain isn't fully developed. And most people with gender dysphoria grow out of it by the age of 19. So you're denying them the chance to get out of feeling wrong in their body. So you go ahead with the surgery, and then you can't go back. You can't get those parts back. The main parts that you need to function as a man or function as a woman. Once you go from a woman to a man and you take out all your woman parts, they can't put those back in. And once they take a man and turn his stuff inside out, you can't get that back. You might be able to go through a transplant procedure, get the initial parts back, and hopefully they'll all function correctly, but you can't get the parts, the reproductive parts back. They can't inject your sperm back into you. They can't project your eggs back into ovaries that aren't there. And even if you put ovaries in there, they're not your eggs anymore. There's no eggs. You can't go back. And that's the problem. The suicide rate is through the roof in this community because everyone's confused about what they are. When they try to make a transition, the studies have been coming out that it's not working. They're just as unhappy. The problem is this right here, gender dysphoria. It's a problem up here. It doesn't make them not human. It doesn't make any of these people not human. And I really could care less if you want to dress up as a woman, get the surgery or whatever. I don't care what you do with your own time. And I don't think anyone does. But you don't give children a chance to grow out of this gender dysphoria. You're pushing it on the children and, in fact, encouraging them to be transgender in a lot of cases. Some experts warn against providing irreversible treatments to adolescents, pointing to growing numbers who come to regret procedures and seek detransition. You can detransition, but you get rid of those vital body parts. It's irreversible treatment. Whether to allow young people to take puberty blockers, hormones, or undergo surgery has become a hot button issue. And it's one we need to talk about. We need to quit silencing one side. Everyone needs to bring the proof to the table. And right now, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the trans community to say this is the right thing to do for children because it's looking kind of bad. Not only that, because of what they've been pushing, 300,000 U.S. children aged between 13 and 17 identified as transgender in 2020, doubling in number from 2017. Number of chest surgeries for trans children jumped fivefold from 2016 to 2019. Fivefold because of all the stuff they've been pushing on children. Even having transgender people show up to the school, teach in the schools, perform concerts at the schools. They're confused. 1%. Take a look at this map real quick. We got, a small part of the country has less than 1% of people who identify as trans. We have most of the country in that 1 to 2%. And we have a few states, New York and New Mexico, in that 2 to 3% range. It's not very many people in all the United States, but somehow it's on the rise, and that just should not be the case. Like I said in my last video, I could care less what you do on your own. It's, I think for the most part, people have accepted that there's transgender people, that there are gay people. We don't care if you get married. We don't really care, right? What we don't like is it be thrown in our face constantly, just like a lot of white people don't like to be called racist all the damn time. If you start telling them that and constantly are saying that, they will become that. So if you want to ever have a conversation, a real one, you got to stop that first and foremost. Second, no one is going to allow you to push this on children. I can't say no one. Some people will, but most of the country will not, and it never will. So you're fighting a losing battle there. And what you're trying to do, we know what you're trying to do. You get the kids, you have them all. We understand it. This is a plan that has happened throughout US history. That's how the country is where it is right now. They got half of the kids. Luckily, the other half, the parents still were sensible enough. And then, now after this generation, none of them will be. They'll have everybody. Because here's the thing, I don't care what you do in your own time. I don't care. I don't even care what you do in public. Let's be honest. Most people are just assholes. No one cares about anybody anymore. I mean, when it comes to a point where someone's getting beat down in the middle of the street and no one helps them, they just pull out their phones. Let's be honest. No one cares whether you're transgender or not. What we do care about is you trying to firebomb places that have people inside of them because they disagree with you. You try to physically assault people because they disagree with you. That's what we care about. We also care about you bringing this into the schools under inclusion. Not okay. Not okay at all. Teaching little white kids that they're bad. Not okay. We're not going to accept that either. We're not going to accept you teaching that there's more than two genders. That's our job, not your job. If we don't want to teach our kids that, that's on us. But, guess what? They'll eventually grow up, be able to make those decisions. But while they're kids, they don't have the mental capacity to make those decisions. That's already been proven in court. That's been proven throughout all of the studies that kids cannot make decisions, even if they know what is right and what is wrong, and including sexual decisions. So again, we could care less what you do. Just leave the kids alone. We know what you're trying to do. If you make all the kids accept it, then by the time you're older and you're living your life the way you want to, all the younger generation will pressure the parents into accepting it. It's an old 1984 trick, George Orwell, where you get the kids to snitch on the parents and make them look bad, and then they get taken off to the gulags. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I could care less what you do, but I do care that men using women's bathrooms. As soon as that was allowed, I think Kentucky or Georgia was one of the first places. A man dressed as a woman goes into a bathroom and was taking pictures of a little girl. Now, a man was with his little girl, sent her into the bathroom. He can't go in there with him, but the guy dressed as a girl can. We can't protect our daughters that way. That's not acceptable. It's also not acceptable for a man to beat up on a woman because he sucks in his sport. He sucked as an MMA participant as a man, so he says he's a woman, and now he can go beat up women and set records. Same thing with swimming. A girl works her whole entire life to get to that point, and this guy sucks at swimming, ranked, I don't know, 300th or whatever, comes in and sets world records in women's sports. How is that right? That's not right. It's not okay, and you can't convince me that it is. There are biological and physical differences, no matter if you take the hormones or not. So that's not okay. I mean, you got to break things down to the ridiculous, because if you don't, you're going to be shocked by the ridiculous happening, because people will take it there. What's to stop? I mean, everyone wants women to have their rights and everything. What's to stop a man from punching women, and then when the cops show up, they say they're a woman? So then it's just a simple assault instead of the dude, a domestic abuse or like, a battery. You could beat the hell out of women, say you're a woman, and then go into a women's jail. I mean, that's already happened. Person says they're a woman and they went into a female prison and impregnated 3 females. There has to be 2 set genders for these reasons. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want, and people can accept you that way. But when you start pressing in to change the laws, that's when you have problems, because you'll have these ridiculous things happening. Now a man can go into a female prison, run the whole prison, and every girl's his bitch. They have to have sex with him because who's going to stop him? Huh? Answer that question. The guards, they can't be around every second of the day. They're not. Most prisons are understaffed. So who's going to stop them? You got to ask questions like that. That's the things that we can't allow. And that's why people are mad at Bud Light, for them trying to push stuff onto younger kids. And also on top of that, they chose an influencer who has a younger audience to promote alcohol. Not right. That's why people are mad at Bud Light. It has nothing to do with the fact that Dylan Mulvaney is transgender. It's his audience and the people that Bud Light were targeting with that. And they're saying it wasn't an ad. They're saying it wasn't a campaign or whatever, but they said they sent it for him to promote it on his social media. 10 million followers. So it was an ad. It was them to get cheap advertisement. Man, we got to start really, really breaking this down. And you got to break this down to these people. Here's the thing. If you want to chalk those instances up that people are moving from men's sports to women's sports to get an upper hand, or saying that they're a man to go to a female prison so they can get an easier time, or, dressing up as a woman, going to a woman's bathroom and abusing little girls, say those are like just a few one-offs and we have to throw those out. Fine. But by your argument, if you looked at this map, which I'll bring back up right now, at most, you're 2 to 3% of the population. On average, 1 to 2% of the entire population of any state. At most. At most. So we have, by your argument, if we have to throw those few instances out, then why are we having this discussion? Because you are, as a whole group, 1 to 2% of the population. That's 98%. That's not part of your demographic, not part of your people, not part of your movement. By your argument, if we have to throw those few instances out, you are a few. So we either have to keep them, we don't have to keep this transgender movement going. Because the argument's done right there.